I'm a musician, so I do original songs and do gigs. I've done places like Ronnie Scott's and stuff, and the Bedford, and I also do uh, often at weekends I do covers gigs for weddings and restaurants and bars and stuff. So as well as being a teacher in the normal world, some of my income derives from music. So I guess I could class myself as a musician and also a writer. So I've had stories published by the Enthusiastic Press, one of the finest indie publishers in the world, and I've been published by King's College, and I've had poems published in like annual anthologies and stuff. So like musician and writer, as well as teacher and human being.
Great. Well, I mean, we could definitely like naturally split that into two with the things that we talk about, because first thing I wanted to cover was your life as a musician, and how just, I mean, you mentioned that some of your income is based on being a musician as well. So could you just describe how, what's going on at the moment? And if you are watching this 10 years in the future, we're talking about COVID-19, how that's had an impact on you. Maybe if you can talk about that in terms of, you know, financially, but also, you know, the damage it might have done to your soul, basically. Because I mean, I know that you played more gigs than anyone I've ever known. So how are you finding it from the perspective of a musician?
It's definitely, it's 50-50. So I mean, on the one hand, all the gigs have been stopped, and so, you know, on a economic level, the money I'd make from those gigs doesn't come in, and on a kind of spiritual soul level, the kind of the catharsis of releasing the demons on stage isn't available on the regular basis it was. So that's tricky. But on the other hand, actually, I kind of like it because this has forced me into learning how to self-record, and it's something I've wanted to do before, but basically been too scared to try, and then used lack of time as an excuse. But now I don't have that excuse. So for the past like, must be like 6 weeks, 8 weeks now, I've been self-recording, like literally from the beginning of just learning how to position mics now into like mixing and stuff and mastering. So actually I really like it because it's given me that chance to self-record, and that has that means I could still express myself. You could write a song and then record it straight away. Also, it means that in the future I can record stuff and don't need to worry so much about finding producers and whatever. Yeah, and it's just given me that opportunity that I haven't had before. But also kind of like onto kind of, I don't know, socioeconomic level, it's kind of made me see that you don't necessarily need to be in expensive London to do music. I could theoretically kind of live anywhere and still do music and produce and take it seriously. So it's kind of been quite a nice experiment of how to live creatively outside of the cultural capital. And it's quite interesting that perhaps you don't need to do that, and then you could leave it and then do it wherever you want, which I quite like.
I think like you've hit so many points there that I think are going through everyone's minds, especially, you know, people that are more creatively inclined, and especially people that do like reside in London usually. Because I mean, just to kind of unpack what you've just talked about, I mean, learning new skills, I think that's something that a lot of people are doing. And I know that a lot of the people that I hang out with, and a lot of the people I've met through the press have really taken advantage of this time, and they're creating things, they're writing things, they're learning a new skill. I mean, learning how to record, that's a proper string to your bow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that, but it's a good pun, I suppose, in a way.
Strings and bows right there.
And also, I think when you talk about this, there isn't that cathartic release. I mean, you know, I know performers, comedians, actors, musicians, and they're all really struggling with that, because it is a release, and it is something that you can look forward to and build up to and practice for, and get your friends involved and have it a big social thing. And then when you're on stage, I mean, it's difficult to describe for those that don't do that, but there's no other feeling like it. And then to be deprived of that, especially for someone like you who gigged so regularly, and then to go from that to zero. And also, I mean, I've known you for a number of years, and I know that, you know, you're really making since I met you to now, you've made so much progress and you've got your name out there. And then I suppose the same with all of the musicians and actors. That's just kind of been, but I suppose because everyone's in the same position, it's okay. But that's been halted, and there will be a time where you have to build it back up again. You know, it's a difficult thing. And finally, I think the London thing. I mean, it does ring true. I think for a few people I've spoken to, and myself, to be honest with you, because when you're in London and you're taking the tube every day, and you're working in central London, and you're walking next to the Thames every day in your lunch break, and blah blah blah. It's very, very full on, but you think, I mean, you do enjoy it, and you also think that you're enjoying it. And then when you're restricted to your flat and the park outside and the bare bones of existing and reflecting what's really important, I mean, those that your loved ones and those people around you, and literally at the moment, just being in this flat and then going around the park and then coming home, I could be living absolutely anywhere without having to pay $800 a month for the pleasure.
Exactly.
So do you see, I mean, have you made any contact with people in Birmingham since being there regarding, you know, possibly getting something together once this has passed? Or are you seriously considering staying there now? Or is that something that you could just bear in mind after you've returned to London?
So it's just something, it's just giving me that option for the future. I mean, you still have things like a housing contract, still got a job, and stuff like that. So I mean, it's more just really, you know, people perhaps before you'd have some kind of pressure like, oh, I want to do music, and so you come to London where you can do music every day, rather than like coming to somewhere else where you can't do it every day, and you think, oh, I have to stay here. But it's just relieve that burden slightly. So now you think, well, if something all goes wrong, I can go anywhere. It's just giving me that option to I haven't thought about actually putting it into practice yet, because it's just too weird a time to think about putting plans into practice yet. But it's definitely an avenue. You know, you could live in, like, I don't know, like those weird fancy, like live in a seaside town, or go abroad and live somewhere cheap, or, you know, whatever, or even just go to another kind of city in the UK, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, where it's a bit cheaper, and do stuff like music there. It's just whether I'd put it into practice yet, I don't know, because it's still a big step just to uproot from a place you've lived for like 10 years. But it's definitely a thing that I could think about, and then the thoughts would coagulate into something solid.
I definitely think people are less worried about leaving London now, because people, you know, when you're out of the madness and you've got time to think and reflect, it does. Being our age as well, I mean, we're mid-30s, aren't we? So early 20s, it was a different story, you know. But anyway, so yeah, it's really interesting to talk to you about that. And I mean, let's talk more about your recording. So you say you've been recording things and you're onto mastering now. So have you recorded an EP, an album?
That's what I was thinking about. I mean, what I do daily is just record a song. So I've been, or like maybe over 1 day or 2 days. So I record a song, mix it, master it, then next song, mix it, master it, and so on and so on. So they started off absolutely terrible, and then day by day they're going from terrible to rubbish. So hopefully one day they'll go from rubbish to acceptable, and so on. So I mean, like, I'm thinking about just releasing kind of EP that's ultra kind of like lo-fi, you know, kind of like early Elliott Smith, Alex G, that kind of like ultra lo-fi kind of vibe. Just get
Can't
out
beat
there.
lo-fi, I don't think. I mean, that's, you know, the DIY kind of vibe is.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's something else.
A couple of guitars, pan it left and right. Oh, it's just classic
Precisely.
vibes.
Job done.
Massive vibe. And yeah, just it'd be good to have something. It'd be good to come out of this with something concrete that you produce as well. And
I agree.
yeah, and then just work on it after that. But like, yes, I mean, I've recorded loads and loads and loads of songs, but they're of course just absolutely atrocious. But you slowly build up. That's the way you get better stuff, isn't it? Right? You start gash, and then you just get better than that later and later.
Of course. Well, I'll tell you what, now you've built yourself up to such a degree, should we have a little interlude? Would you like to play us something?
So, all right, I'll do a song.
You just so happen to have your guitar there. Oh, it's
what
convenient. So I'll tell you what, mate, yeah, just if you want to say what it's called and then give it a little bit.
This one's called We Can. I recorded it. I actually wrote it years ago, but I recorded it. And actually, one of the interesting things about this Contrary period is I sent it to my mate, and so you can exchange your recordings, and he added vocals, he added like harmonies and stuff to it as well. So it's like it's quite interesting. You can have this kind of long distance across the ether style productive relationship. But anyway,
Exactly.
we can. Like it's kind of, what's the time? So it's almost 1. My voice isn't ready yet, so I'm going to drop it a few keys. We'll do kind of a low version of it. So I'll get cracking.
Cool.
Can you hear the guitar? You're giving me a sign of far, watching over when you know I can't go on. Out the far beyond the glittering stars, you're at the sick of me, a lonely silent storm. Oh, the urge of the world goes on. Oh, yeah, I feel that my time has come for you, for me, and everybody out there. I know the man that I set out to be is out there waiting, reaching out a helping hand. We're only happy when we're free. We get to heaven if we realize we can. I know the man that I set out to be is out there waiting, reaching out a helping hand. We're only happy when we're free. We get to heaven if we realize we can. If we realize we can. Yeah. Sure, but like the death is leaving me steep. Let's go and answer when the question can be found. It's time to stand up on my own 2 feet. But for instruction, no, you cannot hear a sound. Oh, the urge of the world goes on. Oh, please, I feel that my time has come for you, me, everybody out there. I know the man that I set out to be is out the way, reaching out a helping hand. We're only happy when we're free. We get to heaven when we realize we can. I know the man that I set out to be is out the way, reaching out a helping hand. We're only happy when we're free. We get to heaven if we realize we can. If we realize we can. Get to heaven if we realize we can.
Finish? Yeah. It's really good. What a good song. Honestly, really, really cool. Really, really good.
Yeah, man.
And it's strange to hear, lyrics about everyone. Let's get out there, when we're all stuck inside.
We can but dream, can't we?
We can. And I think, hopefully, it did come across really well. Obviously, recording with Zoom, it's going to be a little bit wavy, but most of it came through really clearly and really, really cool. And that's when you've recorded, right?
Yeah, I recorded that with when I didn't know about the levels properly, so I was listening to it last night, and the voice kind of has this kind of distorted, almost Strokes style vocal thing.
You can't go wrong there, though. That's pretty good. That's cool.
Yeah, that's okay. It's yeah. I'll email you at something. You can have a listen if you want.
That'd be cool, because we are looking to host all kinds of different forms of art, not just writing. So photography, and also if we could host the odd track and a bit of music in the future on the site, for example, that'd be really cool.
My sister is I wanted to do the artwork for it because she's an artist in Brighton, so she's making art at home. So it'd be good for her to do the Annabelle Wyatt art if anyone's interested.
That's really
That.
cool, because this is a really good moment to very quickly say that we are putting another anthology out, hopefully towards the end of this year. We'll see how things go. And the theme is unheard of. And I know, Alex, you've already submitted something. If your sister wants to submit some art for it as well, that would be really cool, because we're accepting photography, we're accepting sketches, paintings, poems, poetry. That's some amazing stuff then so far. So yeah, if anyone is listening to this as well, just check enthusiasticpress.co.uk for more information.
It's all there. It's all there.
There's the plug. So I suppose before we move on to your writing, that I just want to ask a couple more questions about your life as a musician. So do you have any standout gigs that you can remember playing, like ones that will always stay with you in a good way?
Yeah, I mean, I did probably maybe the best ever gig I played was at a place called the Bedford, which is like quite a big venue in Balham in London. People like Ed Sheeran has played there, and Jack Garrett has played there, and kind of like those up and coming places. It's like, if there's any musicians out there, it's an amazing gig, because they kind of do it. Normally, often when you do an originals gig, it's like half an hour. You do 6 songs, and you're kind of shunted off. But at the Bedford, your set is divided in 2, and all the artists have their sets divided in 2. So you kind of do half your set, and each one does half your set. So you stick around and watch each other. Then they go around again, and you do it again. And they invite all the people from the pub in. So it's kind of like you get the really packed out, quiet venue, and people, especially with original material, you could do these like shorter sets, so people are kind of into it and they remain into it the whole time. So you've got like all these people watching you, and they're kind of interested in the music. So it's an amazing place to play, and it's just really good. And it sorts your chops out, because you're playing to like 70, 80 people straight away. So that's one of the best gigs. It used to be a place I used to play in Pimlico in London. That was in a place called King William IV. And it was used to do gigs there on a Saturday night, and it had a stage, and loads of musicians used to come and play. And it was in a hostel, so you got like people from all around the world coming to watch you.
That's cool.
And they would join in and play too. So you might have like a Peruvian cajon player, or we had like a Japanese fella playing Eric Clapton on the guitar. So it was a really kind of communal place to play, which was amazing. I mean, I did a gig once in a Sue Ryder charity shop on Parkway in Camden. That was amazing. Played to like 50 people. It was the first ever gig that my mom and dad and sister came to watch me. And so it was good to kind of show them that, that I could do it, as it were, in front of a crowd. That was quite good on a personal level. I mean, this is when we talk about London and stuff, but it's just got so many venues, and also in London, it's got there's so many creative people who want to kind of listen to each other and support. So it can be a very, occasionally it can be a difficult place to live, but I mean, it's also just got that kind of nurturing, creative environment. It's got that kind of history or caliber of creative stuff. So so you can create lots of good memories there. Yeah, lots of gigs like that. Yeah.
So it sounds like the gigs that stand out to you are the ones with like that communal aspect. Yeah. So I mean, when you talked about sharing the stage and half your set with the musicians, and then you've got that people joining in and jamming with you. So are you part of? How can I put this? Are you part of any sort of tightly woven community of musicians? I mean, have you got? Is there a group of you that always stay in contact?
Yeah, you always read about scenes and all that stuff, and it seems to be just a bunch of people who are fairly well connected and who are mates. But there's actually like a kind of almost underworld or subterranean underworld of people who are, I don't know, don't fit into that mold of like pretty young person doing music who's been to, I don't know, something like that. But you've got like a lot of people who are maybe older or from a different kind of background or all sorts. Still just people in bedrooms making music, kind of chasing the dream. And then they're going to play in little pubs or on the street and stuff. And then you get to know each other. And it's really inspiring, because you get to see like, there's always a lot of thought of like music. It should be a brilliant song, and you should be on this path to being successful, but there's a lot of people just making music because they love music and just loving playing and getting out there and expressing themselves. And they're all over London. Probably, I mean, they're probably in all cities in the world. It's just, I don't know because I haven't lived there, but yeah, you meet tons of these people, you know, they're older or maybe they're ethnically diverse and all sorts of stuff. And they've got their own voice and, you know, I don't know, standard pathways don't want to hear it because they don't fit into a certain mold, but they're out there and they're communicating and they're expressing and they're supporting each other. And it's bloody beautiful, you know?
I mean, not to sound, you know, like I don't want to sound pretentious in any way, but that you kind of describing exactly what I'm trying to create with Enthusiastic Press, because I've met so many people exactly how you've described, being part of just, you know, the open mic scene, or, you know, writers coming together and sharing their stories. And I was part of an amazing night run by Sam Hacking, who's bit of a name actually in terms of artists and writers and people of whose background is in all kinds of different things, you know, creative. And she used to put on a night called the Shag
In Lambeth.
in Lambeth. Did you ever go to one of those? I can't remember.
I was too shy.
You're too shy. Well, it was incredible because it was this big kind of warehouse and type thing, and she curated these nights where she'd invite painters, comedians, actors, writers, musicians, everyone you could think of, and she'd create an evening of art and performance, basically. Either performance or people just explaining what they've painted or explaining what they've drawn or things like that. And it would go on in a different room. So the first one would be, for example, on the second floor in the back room, and that's, you know, someone talking about their painting, and everyone's drinking and, you know, being really respectful and listening to what they've got to say. And then there's Q&A at the end. Then you go to a different room and someone had lit candles everywhere, and there's a guy playing guitar. It was amazing. And she did that, and then she renamed it Skylark, and she ran a few different events around London. And she also had a night called Cabin, which was in a cabin in her back garden. And it was this little community, this tightly, you know, and you'd spot the same people at different ones and meet so many new people as well. And she was an asset. It's such a shame that, you know, as things do, especially in the current times, it's difficult to get things like that together.
I know it's tricky, but this is where, like, you've seen how technology can also do that. So, I mean, sometimes people complain about technology, but it's allowed us to do this, and it allows you to create stuff anyway. I think a certain Oliver Zarandi went to the Shag as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He's
another legend.
I know. This, yeah, I think between us we know our fair share of legends, actually.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, it's so nice to be part of a little community. And if we could just achieve anything like that going forward, because there are. I mean, I suppose that leads us to the next question I was going to ask. I mean, either a specific gig or something specifically that irks you maybe about being a musician in London. Can you think of, for example, an example of a gig you've played which it stays with you in the worst possible way? Or can you explain anything about being a musician in London that you don't like at all?
It's difficult. I mean, there's always the kind of petty, selfish, like, why didn't they listen? But I mean, there's also, on the other hand, it's like, why should they have to listen? So so I mean, like, there's things like that. But I mean, it's the biggest problem is that things like, so like the open mic nights get shut down because, you know, they don't make enough money, or gig venues get shut down. You know, I mean, like, was it like 20 years ago? You'd see people like bands to play like the Bull and Gate and stuff like that in Kentish Town, and they're gone. So I mean, the biggest problem is that, and the biggest thing that irks you is that slowly the venues get shut down because they don't make enough money, because the rents go up, which is annoying.
They become a pret-a-manger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like on Denmark Street, which is they used to have a place called the 12 Bar Club, and I played some of my earliest gigs are at the 12 Bar Club, and it was amazing. And then now it's gone for I think it's going to build a hotel or something. So, you know, for rich people to live in cubicle.
It's true. I mean, even in. Oh, sorry. I was just going to add. Yeah, even the relatively short time I've been in London, there've been so many places that have closed and transformed, and it's kind of taking away the heart of the city and the reasons you'd want to live here to begin with. You know.
And exactly. Yeah. So I mean, people come here because it's got that kind of, or it has that like grassroots kind of creative world that you could join. and then it gets demolished, and then it's gone, and so there's no more grass.
It's just concrete and coffee and luxury flats. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, on the other hand, it's like it's also difficult to blame venues or landowners or whatever, because it's like, well, they need to make money and they're not making money. So I mean, what's the solution? Is it to become communal where people join it? Oh, I mean, people had an idea of, like, for example, at open mics, you might pay a fee of like £1 to £3, and that would ensure at least the pub makes money. And some people say, but that's pay to play. But on the other hand, if it will disappear, then you don't get to play. And
also, it's nothing, is it? I mean, if it's something like that, I mean, I've played gigs where it's like you need to bring 50 people, and if you don't, we're going to charge you £1,000 and stuff like that. But I mean, it's part of keeping that community feel alive, isn't it? Keeping it going. That it's such a small amount to pay.
Yeah, I mean, if you did that, so you had, like, if you pay £3 and you got 2 or 3 songs, and you had, say, 20 people that came, so that'd be like, how much is it? £60. That starts to make money. But I mean, people, or you buy a drinks token, and then it, you have to buy a drink, something where to ensure that it keeps going. It's achieving a balance between pay to play, which is annoying, and ensuring the thing keeps going, because if it doesn't make money, it won't keep going.
And I'm sure you don't mind contributing if you know their heart's in the right place as well. Because there are some promoters that just take you for a ride, but if it's a little venue that want to keep it going and offer that kind of platform,
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you just get a sense, or you can try and get a sense of if it's true or not or something. But so that's probably the most annoying thing, is that, because it's just a lot less places to play.
And it is difficult to get people to pay attention because there are so many things on offer, aren't there? I mean, being in publishing, I mean, how many books are there in the world that find for people's attention? And it's the same in London with musicians. I mean, and there are so many.
That comes with its double-edged sword of, like, on the one hand, it's annoying, it's difficult to get people to listen, but on the other hand, it kind of makes you hone your craft so that you get better, so that people listen. So it's a tricky, again, it's shock horror. Life is not black and white, it's full of grey, and so you end up walking these tight ropes.
That's beautiful. That should be a lyric.
Yeah.
Life is black and white, it's grey. You end up riding turnips every day. Something like
that. Oh, baby.
Practically writes itself. I mean, I even fluffed my vocals. I was getting too excited. But anyway, I am quite conscious of the time because with Zoom, I mean, it's a 40-minute limit, and I want to get onto your writing as well.
Yeah,
so I'll ask you a few questions just to kind of tease some info out of you, and then if you've got anything else you want to kind of discuss later, we
tickle me and
talk about that precisely. So I know that you've written a novel, is that right?
Yeah. I've written 2 novels actually. But just at the beginning of the lockdown, I finished the second novel. Wow,
that's incredible. So why don't you talk us through both of those and compare the writing process of each of them, and was one more easy to write than the other? Or is there one that you're more proud of than the other, and why? Things like that.
All right. The first novel is kind of a romantic adventure, which I like. Many writers I've heard, it took me about 6 years to write, and I found that's true with a lot of writers in their first novels, in that, because you're not only writing the novel, you're learning how to write at the same time. So it actually went through a series of mutations. So it goes through as you learn the craft, you end up developing it as your craft develops. That was a romantic adventure about one night in London. Also, similar themes of, like, perhaps spiritual awakening, of, like, finding what you really want to do with yourself, rather than kind of, you can get locked in this kind of like almost, I don't know, like repetitive circle of, things like sleep, work, and then find that spiritual awakening of finding something that perhaps you love and you want to do. But that took on so many mutations because I was learning the craft at the same time. So you'd write it. It went through about 5 drafts because it went so many different sections. The second novel is kind of about an adopted Taiwanese woman in the UK who then goes back to Taiwan, like grows up in the UK, then goes back to Taiwan to find her real parents and kind of find the Taiwanese side of herself. So again, it's probably the similar themes, I guess, of like yearning, a spiritual yearning for perhaps filling the void or something. That one was more straightforward to write because get a better idea of the craft. The first one was kind of third person, free and direct style. The second one is kind of first person, so they're kind of slightly stylistically different. I suppose the second novel is more impressionistic, and then it goes through different elements and it goes through her life. It was more enjoyable to write because I could focus just on the writing of it rather than the learning of the craft. But that's like done in its first draft or so, and that still need to be checked through. So yeah, that'd be the second one. And then since I've been back, I've written like that mini autobiographical novels, but just about life in Birmingham, because I find that I found actually since I've been back, I've been watching more TV, and culture tends to point towards, in the UK, like London, Manchester, I found, but practically nothing on Birmingham except Doctors and that TV show in the afternoon. So it's good to be able to write about kind of like where I come from and things like that, like inhabit that world in the way that like Joyce inhabited Dubliners or Zadie Smith inhabits Kilburn or something like that. Just give that kind of underappreciated. It's kind of an underappreciated city and giving it kind of a spotlight. So it's been, it's very.
I feel like both of us, because we're both from there, we've got one foot in both worlds, and I think to see from the perspective of both, they just don't get each other, do they? And also, like you've pointed out, I am very aware of. I don't know how to put it, but there is, like you say, a lot of focus on London. And if you're a creative outside of London, I don't want to say people might have the inclination to look down on that, or but there is a definite, sorry, yeah.
It's difficult to make. Perhaps you have to shout louder than.
Exactly.
The noise. Well, I found it seems to go London and Manchester in particular. It's probably because a lot of them, like BBC and stuff, moved up to Manchester, and it's still in London, for example. But yeah, so imagine they're like, bah! And then you have to shout louder over the top if you're from
like that.
Yeah,
True.
Precisely. So it's, but yeah, I mean, it's good just to like write and then inhabit that world that I lived in, and trying to shine a light on it, because it's the second city, and it's good to. Stuff.
And if you don't mind me saying, I mean, like exactly what you've just described there. I obviously mean this in if this says patronising, I'm really sorry. I don't mean it to say patronising, but I think you, Alex, you're testament to what I'd say. You're testament to the fact that when you work at a craft, you can get to a certain level that you weren't. How can I put this? Let me just say that I know how hard you work. I know how hard you've worked on your writing. I know how hard you've worked on your music. And since meeting you years ago, I mean, when I first met you, you were really good at both. And now you're a different level with both. And I think it's because you've, like you said, I mean, you work so hard on these different things, and you've spent 5 drafts writing that novel. You said you've learnt your craft and honed your craft as you've gone along. And you've put yourself out there as a musician as well so often, and you've done so many gigs, and I think you've got to a really exceptional level with both now. So I think like,
you have to start rubbish and then let people.
No, I wouldn't have said rubbish, mate, but I would definitely have said, hard work does pay off, and you're testament to that.
I think it's okay to embrace that at the beginning you'll be crap, and then accept that people will sling crap at you, but the crap slides off as you get better, and then you get good, and it's okay. So I think it's okay. I don't think being crap is anything to be afraid of. You accept it, and then accept that you'll get better than crap, which is the standard. It's fine. And it does take work, and it does take dedication, and you've put both in, and look at you now, mate. Well done. Just look at me. That didn't sound patronised, did it? I didn't want it to. Hopefully not. I love being patronised. I mean, would you do me a favour? Do you have the guitar that you've got? Do you have that piece of paper sellotape to it still? Actually, I ripped it off yesterday, but here it is. That's a shame. It's just the guitar, so it's the bigger guitar, and this is the paper, and so it would be stuck. It was sellotape to the set list. Can you just hold that close to the camera, because I wanted people to see. I mean, if you just listen to this, it's about 40 songs written in biro on a piece of paper stuck to the top of his guitar. 75. Yeah, that's almost double what I thought, and I've always loved that, because
when I've seen Alex's guitar before, it's like he's got 75 songs written on the top of it that he can look down at and think, I'm going to play that one next. And I just think that's incredible, you know, to have that in your arsenal. And then, you know, it's a really cool thing. I always love that.
Like, I think Bob Dylan learned like 200, 300 folk songs. And I was reading about Elliott Smith, and he's like, they said he like knew so many covers. I mean, it's just the way it goes. Part of the magic, isn't it? Part of the craft.
And yeah, I'm a huge fan of Elliott Smith myself. And yeah, if your EP sounds anything like that, that's going to be really cool. Not to put you on the spot. So I'll tell you what, mate. So I do want to hear another track. So maybe we can end with the writing and by discussing your intentions with it. Are you
okay?
Get those published? Are you looking to that's off for?
I mean, I was gonna. I bought that. What's that book? It's called like the Art Writer's Yearbook or something.
Artist and Writer's Handbook.
The big red one,
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just working out how to write a cover letter for the first novel. And then I came here, got stuck in lockdown, and that's in London. So I kind of put that on hold, I guess. Also, it was the fear of being rejected, but it's there. So I'll go when we get back, and I'll do that. The second one is nowhere near finished. I mean, it's the first draft, but eventually I'd like to get that published. And then yeah.
Just quick. I mean, I'd like to just add, like, you shouldn't fear being rejected, because it's part and parcel of it. Because yeah, I mean, myself and a lot of people I know have been rejected hundreds of times in many different ways, not just creatively either, you know, personally, in relationships and stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's all part and parcel of it. And I think, again, it comes with practice, the practice of being rejected. And like you say, I mean, you know, people can throw stuff at you, and then you've just got to let it slide off, you know. But I think, you know, and getting a good cover letter, it's a really long process. It's like applying for a job each time.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to write that amazing cover letter. I mean, in theory, they want you to research the publishing house beforehand and explain exactly why it would suit them at this time and why it would sell at this time. It's a tricky thing, but
it's all part of the magic.
It's all part of the magic, and you should definitely go for it. And obviously, I'd love to read it as well. Okay, great. So again, I'm conscious of the time. I'm not sure exactly how long we've got left, but I think we'd all love to hear another song. So I'm going to pick your guitar back up. What I'd probably say, is just try and not go for it every so often, because I think when you play loudly, that's where the noise gate kicks in. So just if you could just try and play a bit softer, and that should be great. And also, again, it's going to be a bit wishy-washy because of Zoom, but I mean, hopefully we'll get the meat of the track over. So, do you want to introduce it? And
this is one I recorded a couple of, I guess, a month ago or so, called "Free." A bit more folky, finger picky one. So I'd quite like to make an EP that's a folky EP, then or I don't know, rock EP and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll give it a go. See if you can hear it. See, I put the old camera mic, the blank. Man hides in shadow, he dies out in the sun. He stands there smiling at the damage he has done. And everyone you've kissed and loved and lost, and almost one comes back to you. And anytime you find that you are crying there out loud, and anytime you lie, you are denying what you found. And anytime you close your eyes and turn your head, trying not to see the pain, will set you free, set you free. So the victim stares at those who throw their stones. With every drop of blood, they make sure their eyes are closed. And everyone you've kissed and loved and lost and left alone comes back to you. And anytime you find you are crying there out loud, anytime you lie, you are denying what you found. And anytime you close your eyes and turn your head, trying not to see the pain will set you free, set you free.
That was really lovely. Well done. That was really good. I will say, like, when you started and you had your mic next to the guitar, it sounded really clear as well. And I love that chorus. That's it. I love the way that you attack that, because I'd get really nervous leading up to that chorus, you know, because you got that. Those are some up there notes.
There's no vibes in there. Yeah,
that's great. So you say that's one you've recorded, and that's one you hope to put on the EP. Is that right?
Maybe, yes. It's currently drenched in reverb, so I might dry it up a little bit. But yeah,
hanging out to dry.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you got a possible name for the EP?
I was going
not to put you on the spot.
No, I was going. I had one the other day when I was walking about, and now I forgot it. It was, I can't remember. Something like, what was it? Just something called like Subterranean or something like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that. So, do you have an online presence? Like, do you have a Bandcamp or a Soundcloud or anything like that?
I've got a Soundcloud that's called Alex PW, and I've got a Facebook that's Alex PW, and got Instagram, which is like the _Alex _PW.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put all of that in with the post, so we'll add all of Alex's socials so you can keep track of him and his EP as well.
Oh, cheers.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So just to kind of round things up, what we normally do, I say normally, this is the third one, but you know, what we're going to normally do is end these podcasts by asking just a few kind of general questions, but questions that you probably always hear and things like that, but really good questions to get to know more about the artist and more about the person and their influences and things like that. So firstly, from a musician's perspective, who would you say your key influences?
Key influences. They originally the two big D's, Dylan and Doherty. I love those two, especially like Basic Libertines and Bob Dylan originally. Yeah, I mean, it depends what. Now I'm self-recording. I'm trying to listen to all these like self-recorded albums. So like the early Elliott Smith ones are self-recorded, or Alex G is kind of like a modern songwriter, or there was a lady and her name's like what's it, like Waxa Cheetah or something, and she see if I can find it. See if I can just find it quick. See what was it called? Her name is Waxahachie. That's it.
Wow, and she records. She does home recordings as well.
Her first album is called American Weekend, and that was self-recorded. I listened to the first Bon Iver album, that for Emma one, and that because that was self-recorded.
That's stunning. I think that's a marriage of well, it's like talent and just emotion. That album, you can really hear it because he'd just been dumped, hadn't he? So it's it's a stunning album. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That's some great tracks. Yeah. So like I bet. So I guess just recently, all the influences have been just solid self-recorded stuff, just to see how they, because you kind of listen to study, so you're kind of studying how it works and stuff like that. So yeah, probably those kind of guys.
And how about your? Do you have a favorite? Would you be able to name a favorite album or an album that you might consider to be in your top 5?
Yeah, I actually got like yeah, like Bringing It All Back Home. Bob Dylan's got like Mr. Tambourine Man on it, and Subterranean Homesick Blues. Hajira, Joni Mitchell. It's like the lyrics and the music is like quite different, really good. And got like probably got like Odyssey and Oracle, the Zombies, lots of 60s stuff, that kind of quite raw recording, early Beatles. Yeah, lots of stuff like that probably.
Great. So that's from the perspective of a musician. How about writer? Do you have any particular influences there?
Right. So you got like the modernists, like, you know, Joyce, Beckett. I like Zadie Smith with that kind of the way she wrote White Teeth, outstanding novel. Angela Carter, she did a novel, kind of a collection of short stories called The Bloody Chamber, which is like really visceral. You can like taste it and feel it. That's really good. Martin Amis in particular, London Fields. I'd just before the lockdown, I went through Jane Austen, and that great structure, great craft in the writing. So like Jane Austen is in there. Saul Bellow, the way he writes about Chicago makes it feel quite like Birmingham. You know, so there's quite a lot of different writers.
That's a great list. Wow, that's that might be the best one we've had so far of the three. So well done. Yes. This is a bit of a naff question. I think I already know the answers to this as well. But you know, the classic: if you were stranded on a desert island,
oh yeah,
what's the three things that you'd want with you?
The three things I'd want with me.
I know one of them straight away.
Gotta have the guitar.
Yeah, sure. I knew it.
Gotta be a guitar, and then probs. I'd probably say I'd say iPhone, because then I could use GarageBand and record. And then like a notebook, and then because then I could write and then record and play music, and you can have all that together. So probably those three.
That's nice. I'm stuck on an island and there's no plans of survival.
I want to see dry land, but I'm not going to see dry land. It's surrounded by sea.
There you go. That's the concept. Concept album. Yeah.
It's like Neil Young on the beach.
Writes itself. I mean, yeah, that question. You're the first person to not say a charger, but you know.
I mean, that was like one of those, I went for the kind of like slightly hoity-toity bohemian answer instead of like practical, like food.
Yeah, and then I know, right? A gramophone.
Bloody gramophone.
Cool. All right, then. Well, I will ask you to kindly play another track just before we finish. But for now, I'd like to say that Alex does have a story in our Greetings anthology, which is currently available for purchase on our Etsy page, enthusiastpress.co.uk, for more information about that. Also, all of the things that we've spoken about regarding links to Alex's pages, I'll make sure to include in the description of this video / podcast track. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on you, mate, and your EP, and obviously let us all know when that's done.
Yeah, big time.
And yeah, so stay safe, you and everyone listening. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. This is the third Enthusiastic Press podcast, and I'll let you guys know when the next one is scheduled to be recorded and released, and who that guest will be as well. I'm talking to a few really cool people at the moment about that, so we'll let you know more about that in the near future. Yeah, so, Alex, do you want to describe your last song and then play us out?
Yeah, this is called a song called She Breaks, and I recorded it. This song, I deliberately wanted the lyrics to be, I don't know, kind of like perhaps shocking or potentially unsettling, because it came after I talked to a musician, and he said about his song, and he was like, some people found the lyrics upsetting, so he changed them, and I thought, no, don't change them. So keep it kind of. You want that art that kind of can affect people and that emotion.
Definitely, I would say never censor yourself in any way for anyone.
Well,
bearing that in mind, let's listen to this. See and judge for ourselves.
Here she stands looking at the edge of all the world she has attacked. She stares into the depths, into the black. She counts to 10 before she learns to fly. Thinks of the arms that held her back in life. She feels the wind across her crying eyes. But she breaks, and any strength she thinks she has, she takes. Oh, and she breaks, any strength she thinks she has, she takes. Oh, oh. She packed her bags and ran into the night. She found the space between her wrong and right. The truth she learned had always been a lie. They tore her flesh with fingertips and teeth. They forced themselves on top of her to kiss. And now she teeters on the brink of peace. But she breaks, any strength she thinks she has, she takes. Oh, and she breaks, any strength she thinks she has, she takes. Oh, 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 oh.
Very good. No, that was great. That's really cool. But that's my favourite of the three. That was really cool. I love the do bit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was wonderful. So as mentioned, thank you so much, Alex, for being such a great guest.
Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. And yeah, as I've pointed out, we'll put all of your socials in the post of this podcast. So yeah, thank you very much, Alex, and thank you everyone for watching, for listening. Take care. Hope the pandemic I hope you're bearing up okay. Stay safe, and we'll all see each other once this has passed. Still organising a really cool launch for a couple of the books that we've got coming out. For whenever this is over, I'll be sure to invite all of you guys along to that. But for now, stay safe. Thank you very much, and take care. Thanks again, Alex.
Take care.
Thank you, mate.
A pleasure.